Jiggy cat on a damn killing spree. This is Nagato, and you can't mimic my energy. 100 rounds drawn and me hanging like a centipede.
Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. It's me, Nagato's Revenge, and for today on episode 4 for my WebKit PlayStation 4 Jailbreaking 6.72 series, I'm going to be teaching you guys on how to play classic PlayStation 1 games on 6.72 firmware, which is experimental, and I'll get more into that a little bit later as of right now, and I will state all of the key factors and disclaimers before even getting into the process like I like to do in all my videos, so everyone is on the same page and everyone can understand what I mean by this process is via experimental. And one of the major disclaimers that will basically explain why I stated this in the title, that this method is experimental. Note for today's video that not all PlayStation 1 titles will work straight out of the box due to the internal emulator that was found in the medieval game, and it's not fine-tuned and work with PlayStation 1 titles. So as some of you guys know, one of the PlayStation 4 titles that got dumped had a secret internal emulator from the game Medieval, and if some of you guys know, Medieval was one of like a classic PlayStation 1 title back in the day. However, it sort of got ported on the PS4, and developers found that there was a secret internal emulator hidden within it. However, the emulator that was based into that actual game itself wasn't up to par, and basically a lot of PlayStation 1 titles will not work with this method. So games might have major graphical issues, audio issues, or won't even straight up play to begin with. And what I'll do now, just to reiterate what I'm stating, I will have two things. I will have some gameplay footage of showcasing of certain games on how they run on the PlayStation 4, and this is straight up raw footage coming off my system, and I'm running this on a PlayStation 4 Pro via with 6.72, and there will be some other things that we'll be using today on how to basically test titles. So what we're going to be using is a backwards compatibility list, and I'll get more into that a little bit later. As well, what I highly do recommend, if you have any other jailbroken consoles, whether it be a PSP, PlayStation Vita, PlayStation 3, or just other things like RetroArch and stuff like that, I have other guides that if you really want to play PlayStation 1 classic titles, you probably will have a better chance of noting that most games that you'll test on other systems will run just fine, since the PlayStation 3, PSP, and PlayStation Vita all kind of natively support PlayStation 1 games to begin with. As for the PS4, this is using a internal emulator. But with that being kind of getting out the way, I will have a playlist to all those videos in the link in the description down below, as well as in the card. What I will do is talk about all the prerequisites, and anything I state, just like any of my other videos, will be in the link in the description down below. So first things first, you need a modded PlayStation 4 that is on firmware 6.72 or lower. So if you're on a higher firmware, sadly you can't do this. As well, you need a PC. You also need a PlayStation 1 Fake Package conversion tool, and this is going to allow us to take our PlayStation 1 games that are in .bin format and basically convert them to fake package files for the PS4. You also need Al-Azhar's DNS setup to run Mira, so I'm already assuming that you already have your PlayStation 4 jailbroken for this process. If you want to learn more on how to jailbreak your system on 6.72, I will actually have a card right now and everything in the link in the description, and my jailbreaking playlist, so you can see all of the videos to get you up to date for speed for this. As well, we're going to be using the PlayStation 1 Dev Wiki emulation compatibility list, which is kind of a list that the scene curated, and even I put some games up on myself on that actual website to help basically just test to see what PlayStation 1 titles work. So not all games, of course, will be in there, since not a lot of games have been tested. However, this is basically a kind of a good general step in the right direction to see which games work and which games doesn't work for this process. Once again, you need a USB stick that is either formatted to FAT32 or exFAT, and I also recommend, if you're doing multiple games, at least having a USB stick that is worth more than 32 gigabytes or have 32 gigabytes in size if you're going to be transferring over multiple games. Some other key prerequisites which I'll do, which is of course optional, I'll provide a resource, or basically a repo of PlayStation 1 CoverArt, and I will have it as a .zip as well as a Google Drive file, which will have basically over 1,500 cover arts for the PlayStation 1, which will be all US based titles, and I'll show you guys on how to set up your cover art within the PlayStation, or basically on the PS4, and I'll kind of have a picture up right now so you understand what I mean by that. And we'll need to know our PlayStation 1 content title ID, and we'll be getting that from the PlayStation Data Center, which will provide all of the information for your said title. But with all of that getting out out the way. Of course, for the intro, once again, I always apologize in advance for my intros being long. However, I like to cover all the bases before we get started. But that's basically all you need to know. And then right now, we're going to go ahead transfer over to the PS4 and PC to get this all started. Alrighty everybody, welcome back to my PC. Assuming that you guys did follow all the prerequisites as I stated in the intro, as always, we're ready to go and get started on the PC side of things. And I'm going to give you guys a general synopsis on what I'm working with via on my desktop, and then we're going to go to my Google Chrome browser and we're going to check out all of the links where I'm going to show you guys on how to successfully download all of the needed files for today. Of course, it will be in the link in the description down below as well as the pinned comment, but nonetheless, let's go ahead and get started. So right here we got three files of basically three files that we're going to be working with today. The game of choice I'm going to be testing today is Namco Museum Volume 3, which is already in a .bin format. So as long as you got your game in a bin format or even an ISO, you could just rename it as a .bin and it'll be just fine as well. But right now what we're going to do is go ahead and talk about the second file which we'll be working with today, which is the PlayStation 1 game cover art. And this is basically a repository that has all of the United States versions, or basically all the USA game cover art for PS1 titles. It doesn't have all of the games, I believe. However, if you want a Japanese cover art of the game or something from the PAL region, if you're using a PAL dump of a said title, I will show you guys on where to get that. It's very easy to Google. And yeah, but this is just kind of a good way to start, and basically has all of the major games, I would say, but this is something you guys could work with, and I'll show you guys on where to download this from, and I will have that in the link in the description down below as well. The main part of this is the actual conversion tool, which is called PlayStation X Fake Package, and the latest version as I'm recording as of September 5th is version 0.2, and you could just extract that via with WinZip, or excuse me, WinRAR or 7-zip. But with that getting out of the way with the main process, I'm going to show you guys on where to get this from. So I'm getting this from PSX Place, and this is a reputable website, and this is just how the tool looks itself, and this is how you can actually utilize this. So if you want to read more about it, this is just a quick guide on how to read it, but I'm teaching you guys that for today's video. And yeah, this also works with 5.05 firmware, which is cool too as well. But all you got to do is just go to this link in the link in the description down below, go into MediaFire and just download the actual latest version itself. And then once you download that, you can just place it to your desktop or wherever in your downloads folder, and then you're basically done for like step one. Step two, we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 1 compatibility list, and this is a list that I've actually contributed to myself, and this is a good list, or basically a good start to see which game basically games work for the PlayStation 4. However, I will state this right now, as you can see, a ton of games either has major issues or is deemed unplayable, so please take that into effect. Not all games will work. I know I even had some trouble with certain titles, and I've done a lot of testing myself. However, for example, if I go into Namco Museum, which is something I've added to the list, I've already tested this on 5.05 as well as 6.72, and the game one's totally fine. But this is just something to note. If your game is not on the list, you may be just taking that risk to see if the game works. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. If you don't see the game on the actual list, just note you may run into some major graphical issues, audio issues, or the game may just straight up not boot up. But that's just something to take heed of as well. Games like Final Fantasy 7, so let me go right here. This will be a good example. And this is something that I wrote, and I tested this on 5.05, and everyone tried different regions of said title. This doesn't have multi-disc support, so that also needs more testing, and I'm not too sure as of right now as I'm recording. Multi-disc games can work via with this method, so please take that into note. But with that being getting out the way for the compatibility list, I'm going to show you guys on where I got my cover art from. So this is just a Google Drive repository where it has all of the same basically the stuff I had on my desktop. So this is just all of the game cover art that comes from, I guess, the US and I guess European region. I see that now, and I do not take credit from this. This came from this Reddit post person, which I think his name is Fanatic. That's how you pronounce it. If I butcher your name, I do apologize for that. But This is mainly for the PlayStation Classic. However, I thought this was good to keep in here since it's like a repository. So I'm assuming most people will play the US version of said title. However, if you want a Japanese version of said game or whatever like that, you could just type in, I don't know, for example, Japanese cover art Ridge Racer. And then you could just look on Google Images and get the Japanese version. So here's the Japanese version of Ridge Racer. If you wanted to download that, you could just save, right click, such and so forth. But yeah, that's how easy you could find cover art via on Google. However, what we're going to do now is go ahead and talk about the PlayStation database, which is how you could find out your game's content ID and serial number, which is very important for this part. So what I'm going to do here is right now, if you know your game is the US version of said title, which I already know my Namco disc since I dumped that from my official Namco disc on my PlayStation 3, I already know that it's the US version. So I will have all of basically the database stuff. So if you have a PAL region of a game, make sure to just look in the PAL list, which will say that in the URL. Or if you're using like from the NTSCJ, which was the Japanese region, you can see basically your Japanese content ID. But in my case, since I am from the US and I have a US version of the Namco Museum, all I'm gonna do is just hit Control F, find my game, and voila, this is my content ID for the said title that I'm using. What I'm going to do is just right click copy. I'm going to open up Notepad. Let me just create a new window, boom, and I'm going to put that there. So if you're doing multiple games, like let's say, I don't know, just for another example, if you're doing Crash Bandicoot for the US region, this will be, I guess, this will be the content ID or like the serial ID, but that's just something to note. But in this case, since I'm doing Namco Museum, I'm just going to keep that there. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and focus on the actual rebuilding of the ISO package. So once you have all your stuff downloaded, you got your game cover arts, which I will have in a .zip, of course. We're going to go ahead and extract out the PlayStation X tool. This tool right here, we're going to go ahead and go to PSX, go into the README if you want to read more of that. That's just, you know, shows you on how to do, or basically more about the program itself. But what we're going to do is go outside of this program or into this folder, I believe. Just drag that out since you don't want to have two folders. Sometimes it acts kind of wonky, so that's why I recommend people just extracting it out the second folder that was in there. But once you have the folder out, this is how it looks, and this is how it's supposed to be set up. So right now, what we're going to do is go ahead into the stuff folder real quick, go into PNG, and this is where we're going to curate our icon 0.png. You could leave these basic. This is when the game boots up, and this is like the background that it will have. You could put something custom. I'm just going to leave this basic, but if you want to have a custom icon picture, and I'll probably have like a little picture right here on the side once I edit this out, of your said title, you can have the actual game's cover art. So what we're going to do first is find our game's cover art. Either you can use Google, like I said, or you can use the PS1 cover art database repo I have and just find your game. So in my case, if you know your game title name, which mine is Namco Museum, I'm going to go ahead and just wait for it. My PC is acting kind of slow, but probably be faster if I just actually find it. Oh, but there it goes. So I know I have Namco Museum 3. What I'm going to do is go ahead and hit Control C. Just go ahead and paste that onto the root of my desktop. And what we're going to do is make sure that the dimensions are 512 by 512. Usually it may not be 512 by 512, it may be like 500 by 500, but the exact dimensions of your image needs to be 512 by 512. There's two methods on how to do this, and I should have mentioned this in the prerequisites itself, but either you can use Paint or Photoshop. Just for simplistic reasons, I'm going to show you guys on how to do this with Paint. So if I open up Paint really quick, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys on how to open this up. So what you could do is once you open up Paint, go into File, Open, and we're going to find the actual image where we have, so Namco Museum. You can see here that it's 500 by 500 height and width. We need to change that to 512. So what we're going to do is go into Resize, where it says maintaining aspect ratio. Click that off, go to Pixels, right here, just type in 512 by 512, and it will automatically rasterize this to this. Now what you want to do is go ahead and go to File, Save As, and make sure it's to a PNG, and you want to name this to icon 0.png. So voila, you're done with that. Now let's go back into the PlayStation Fake Package folder. go into stuff, go into PNG, and what we're going to do is either you could keep this icon if you want to have it as a backup, so you could just rename it to like icon 1, or it really doesn't matter, or you could delete it. It's really up to you. But right now I'm just going to name it icon 1. But right now we have our icon of choice, which you can see by hovering over it. It's 512 dimensions, and if I go to properties, it's 512 by 512. If we go into details, just drag that into PNG. And now once you build your game, if you want to do this for multiple things, just make sure to change out your cover art, or it will be rebuilt with the same title. So that's just one thing to note. But once you got that, what we're going to do is open up the PlayStation X fake package file, and this is how the actual tool looks itself. What we're going to do is go ahead and select our disk, go ahead and hit select, scroll down to our desktop or wherever you have your bin at. Here's Namco Museum. Open it up, make sure you have your region. So if your game is from PAL, use SCEE. If your thing is from SCEI, or I guess Japan, you can just use this, or if it's from SCEA, you can use that region. For scale, this is just basically the scale for the actual video size, and you could go ahead and read that via in the actual patch notes itself. So if I go to the readme txt, I believe, yeah, so scaling model just shows you like the resolution. You could put it to 4. I'm just going to leave mine 1 because I know it works. So I recommend if you want to test out, you can just change the scale however you want. You can. If you want to add additional configurations for the PlayStation 4 TXT, I really don't mess with this. I would just leave it basic. But if you know what you're doing, then feel free to, you know, go along with that. But what we need to do now is go ahead and select your icon. If you're also doing this on 5.05 and you want to backport, then make sure you have this toggled on. For me, I'm not doing this since I'm using on 6.72 and I have no reason, but what I'm going to do is just skip that. But if you're on 5.05, make sure you have this toggled. But right now we're going to go to icon. We're going to go to, excuse me, my desktop, PlayStation X, go into stuff, PNG, and we're going to select the first file, which is icon0.png, and this is the your game's cover art. Then we want to select the second one, which is pic1.png, which will be the background. And then right now where it says MP title ID, go back to either the PSX database or your notepad and just get the game's content ID. What you want to do as well is just backslash out of the little dash and just paste that here. Same thing, just to reiterate once again, get your content ID from PSX Data Center, and then that's how easy it is to do. Once you have this, you put your name of the title of your game, which will be Namco Museum Volume 3 for me, and then all you got to do is go ahead and create the fake package file. So what I'm going to do now is create the FPKG. You can save it to anywhere. I'm going to put it on my desktop so it'll automatically save here. And then right now, what it will be doing is creating the image. You can also have compression on, which I do recommend if you want to save space. But once that is all done, what we're going to do now is go ahead on the PlayStation 4, get hen running, and then I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up back on the PC via for the USB. So right now, I'll do that. Actually, it's fully done, but what I'm going to do now is go back on the PS4, get this transferred over, and then yeah, so let's meet for that. Alrighty, so we're on the PlayStation 4 as of right now, guys. What I'm already assuming right now, you on 6.72 firmware. Just to verify, once again, if I go into my settings, I'm gonna show you guys that I am on 6.72. So voila, this is my PlayStation 4. But what we're going to do now is go ahead and enable hen. So I'm already assuming you have Al Azra's DNS setup. Once again, I will have all my jailbreaking guides in the link in the description down below. But you can see here, this is how the end product looks. Once it's on it, this is just me testing Namco Museum for myself. But just to even showcase to you guys, I'm gonna delete the game and I'm gonna reinstall it, which is the whole point of this process. But what I'm gonna do now is go into my settings, go into user guide helpful info, user guide once again, assuming that you already have Al Azra's DNS cache, and you can use any basically WebKit exploit as long as it runs Mira fine. Then what we got to do is just go ahead and run that. In my case, I'm going to run Mira. So this is what I'm doing now, just waiting for it to do its thing. And then what should happen on the left side of the screen, the jailbreak should be successful, and you should get a little notification saying waiting for clients, and it will have something dealing with elves or whatever. It will shoot out some random numbers and string of stuff. Once you have that, you will know you're basically you're good to go, and you're fine to enable package files, which we're going to be installing now. But just to reiterate, if you can see debug settings, go into game, you're basically good to go. So what we're going to do now, since we got the PlayStation 4 running, what we're going to do is go to the PC, get our game of choice transfer, which is Namco Museum for me, and then we're going to get that all set up on the PS4. So I'll meet you guys for that. Alrighty, so we're back on the PC once again. What we're going to do is take our fake package file. You can see here that it's compressed for sure, since it's 264 megabytes, and I believe the actual bin was like 431 megabytes, which is pretty cool since we could save some space on our PS4 when we adding our PlayStation 1 titles. What we're going to do now is go ahead and open up any file on our or any folder, and we're going to go to File Explorer, and we're going to find our USB. So make sure as of right now you plug in your USB. And what we're going to do is go ahead and verify that our USB is either on FAT32 or it's on exFAT. So right now I'm going to go into properties, and if your thing is on FAT32, you're fine and you can just transfer it over. But since I want to transfer to exFAT, since I may be adding multiple games, that's what I'm going to show you guys right here. But assuming that you may have important data on your USB, always back up your stuff, whether if you're going to put it on a cloud, on your desktop, or another USB drive. Make sure, because anytime you reformat your hard drive, I can't stress this enough, you can lose your data, or you will lose the data, I should say, if you ever reformat. But what we're going to do now is just go ahead, go into format. If your thing is definitely on NTFS like this, make sure it's on exFAT. For default allocation size you can have, make sure your capacity is the highest as well. Volume label really doesn't matter. I just named this to PS3 trophies since I use it for trophy stuff, but it really doesn't matter. Format options, just go ahead and hit quick format. Make sure it's toggled on, or you will be spending all day waiting for your USB to transfer. But once you got all of this set up correctly, as I do on the screen here, what we're going to do is hit start. It's just going to reiterating what I just stated. So formatting will erase all data on this disk. To format this, click OK, or to cancel, just hit cancel. But in this case, we want to go through with it, so hit OK. Once it's done, it will pop up on the screen that the format complete. Just hit OK again. Now let's open up a File Explorer, go into our USB drive, right click, and your thing should either be on FAT32 exFAT. Once it's on FAT32 exFAT, take your new package file that you just rebuilt via with the PlayStation X Fake Package game, and just drag it and drop it onto your USB. Since PlayStation 1 titles are not that large in size, it won't take too long, so I got about 20 seconds left. I am using a cheap USB 2.0 drive, and I am using my 2.0 slots, but if you got like a USB 3.0 external HDD or anything like that, it will go definitely much faster. But once you have your game basically copied onto your USB, what we're going to do is safely eject our drive, plug it into our PlayStation 4, and then go about on installing the package. And we're going to be playing some PlayStation 1 titles hopefully in today's video, so just waiting for it to do its thing. All right, so it's looking good. What we're going to do now is go ahead and to safely remove hardware, go and find your USB, go ahead and check the one that is correct. So I already know this is my Cruiser blade. And then what we're going to do now is take it out of our PC and then plug it into our PlayStation 4 and then get everything set up. So I'll meet you guys back on the PS4. Alright, once again, we're on the PlayStation 4, guys. Just want to reiterate it one more time. Make sure your USB is plugged into whatever USB port on your PlayStation 4. So if you got the Pro, you could plug it into the back. If you got, just a regular Slim or the original model of the PlayStation 4, doesn't matter. Just make sure it's plugged into whatever slot. But once you have your USB in, what we're going to do now is go ahead, since we already enabled Mira via with Al Azur's DNS, we're going to go ahead and scroll down to Debug Settings, go into Game. If you get this error, that's just a normal general error. I'm not too sure why it really happens, but you can just hit OK. But once you do that, go into Package Installer, go ahead and install the actual package itself, and just wait for it to do its thing. Since the game is not like some large PlayStation 4 package file, or like games like Kingdom Hearts 3, Red Dead, such and so forth, that's just one thing to note. It won't take too long, especially when it's compressed. But once the game is on your actual PlayStation 4, what I'll do is go ahead and showcase that now. So boom, it's done. What we're going to do, as you can see here, if you did everything correctly, you have your game's cover art, which you did via from Paint, or you got from the PlayStation 1 cover art thing. And now what we need to do is just play the actual game. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and launch the game. This is the icon, if you guys remember, we were messing with from the PlayStation 1 package tool. And you can see here that the game is running fine. So what I'll do right now is just to cut off my mic for a real quick second, show you how the gameplay functions via with this game, and then come back a little bit once it's done. So I'll cut off my mic, just show a little gameplay just to show it's working, and then yeah. So yeah, you guys get the general gist. The game is working. This is one of my favorite games too. Kind of a side note, it was basically a museum for like little Namco games. And yeah, so but yeah, this is Namco Museum on the PlayStation 4. One of my favorite titles. If you guys haven't checked this out and you like retro games, this is something you can play. But yeah, that's essentially on how to play classic PlayStation 1 titles on the PlayStation 4. Even though the emulation is not really up to par, this is something really cool that you can do on a modded system via on 5.05 and 6.72 firmware. But with that being all out the way, my name is Nagato's Revenge. If you guys have any questions or anything you know, concerning about this process, or just anything dealing with the PlayStation 4 jailbreak, feel free to hit me up on Discord, Twitter, or anything like that. But with that being out the way, I am signing out, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Hey everyone, it's me, Nagato's Revenge here. Hope you guys did enjoy today's video. With that being out the way as well, I highly do recommend that y'all guys go ahead and follow my social media so you never miss any of the latest hacking guides and tutorials on my channel by subscribing to me and hitting that notification button as well. Is another method on how you will know when I drop my latest content, whether it be for the Vita, PS4, PS3, and such and so forth. As well, if you want to be in the mix of things and you want to join my official community, you could join via the link right now showcased on the screen and join my Discord that way. And if you do want to support my channel in any shape or form, you could become a patron. I will have a card right now. But with all of that getting out the way, hope you guys really did enjoy this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Nice and silky smooth.